Welcome to the Elevated Trader Podcast. I am Dr. Kristen Kidgel.
And I am Tracy Ball. Join us every week as we journey into becoming better traders.
We believe becoming better traders involves elevating our skill, our mindset, and our health. In each episode, we will discuss the current book we are exploring, and we invite you to join us on this journey.
Are you ready to elevate your trading, mindset, and health to the next level? Let's do this. All right, welcome back, everyone, to the Elevated Trader Podcast. We are into part 4 of Let the Trade Winds Flow by Dr. Harry Stanton, Louise Bedford, and Tate. Kristen, we're into the home stretch of this book, and we're going to be covering chapters 10, 11, 12, and a little bit of 13. What are your thoughts so far?
That I have a lot of work to do. Because I know that this book is not going away, and it's interesting how she summarizes it, like, feel free to keep opening this book and, trying different things until you find what works. And that's honestly, I'm going to take her very seriously with this.
I agree.
So yeah, I think it's very interesting. And this particular section that we're wrapping up with starts with like an evaluation, and there's 30 questions and yes, no questions. And then you rate yourself. I'm sure after reading these questions 3 times, by the way, I did, that you probably got at least 29 or 30.
This was for what kind of trader are you? Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, I came up as an outstanding trader when I did the questionnaire, which was good. But that being said, there's always room for improvement, and give a month or 2, I can answer those questions, and some of those questions might change. The answers might change. So, I mean, this is not a finish line. There's always room for improvement, and you have to also maintain, otherwise you lose a lot of the skills that you've acquired, and you can step backwards and become a not so good trader very quickly if you lose track of the habits.
Well,
and actually,
it's psychology.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why this book is so paramount and pivotal to success as a trader. I think it's actually one of my favorite books so far that we've gone through, and I had no idea that it was going to be that way, but it is. And all the other ones, I really like them, but this one has all of a sudden catapulted past the rest of them as my number 1 favorite book at this point.
That's very interesting. Yeah. Can I tell you something really interesting?
Mm-hmm.
When I was answering these, when I was answering a yes or a no, I 100% knew that I was answering it the incorrect way that they wanted to be answered. And so I think I answered 3 of them. I think I had 3 or 4 of them that as I was writing like the yes, I'm like, it's supposed to be a no. Like, I knew it. So if that isn't a sign of where to start, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. So.
Well, and you know what? I think that's a perfect segue into chapter 10, because really chapter 10 is all about being able to, it's the title of it is to be solved. And what they're really saying is, if you can identify what the problem is, understand what the problem is, it's so much easier to come up with a plan on how to do it. And it goes through the rest of everything else that create problems for a lot of traders. Where are the blunders? Where are the mistakes? And it really comes down to what you're focusing on. And if your focus is in the wrong direction, you're going to miss the actual problem that you're trying to solve. And I think it's a really neat approach to the markets, right? So understanding even yourself as a trader and being self-aware, which we covered in a couple other topics, these are all things you have to become aware of. Whatever, the clarity is what's important, right? That's what I'm taking from this. So
yeah, it's interesting because this is a lot of brain work. This is not a technical analysis book at all. Honestly, I really am starting to enjoy not knowing a damn thing about these books and start reading them, because I'm like, kind of like, oh, this is pretty cool where this is going. I didn't expect that. If you haven't read The Man's Search for Meaning, don't know anything about it, like, just pick it up and start reading it. Like that happened to me. But I think right away, even though I haven't really been doing a lot of the really cool techniques I can't wait to try for, brain subconscious retrainment of beliefs or cyclical patterns you find yourself in, I literally am looking at the charts differently. So I can appreciate that.
Yeah, and actually I thought there was quite a few different techniques that I want to try as well in here for dealing with stress and fear and all that kind of stuff to de-stress. And these are subconscious triggers and reprogramming methods that they're using through almost a type of self-hypnosis that's going to be quite interesting, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is going to save you like thousands in your trading and the thousands seeing a psychologist who could do EMDR and whatever it might be. Why do most traders lose, Tracy? Can I just hit on these?
Yeah, absolutely.
I won't go into them. I'll just hit them. He goes, 1, failing to take a loss at the right time, failing to act on signals, closing out profits too soon or too late, listening to too many opinions, trading with insufficient capital. And so basically that's your starting point. Like, this is most of why traders struggle. And then the next part they jump into is like, well, what do you desire? And then the authors have put, like lists, checklists. Well, this is what winners do and think, and this is what losers do and think. And there's a lot of reflection in here. This is what top traders have. They have patience, discipline, independence, love of the game, emotional detachment. Like, I don't have emotional detachment. I'm not there yet, but I want to be there. And I really think this book is going to be the answer for that. Willingness to take risks. Yeah, that's no problem for me. But interestingly enough, those two are next to each other, right, in this little list. But so the list goes on, but I think like the chapters before, these upcoming chapters here are pretty good. So they've done a good job. And this is a short book, people. So don't think that you can't read this. This is about around 150 pages.
I wouldn't say it's a quick read, because if you actually read with intent and you try and put some of these issues into practice, this is one of those books that you're going to have to spend a lot of time on, learning all the different techniques, because they mention it many times that these techniques may not be for everybody. You got to try all of them until you find what works for you. And that's why there's a variety of them, which is really cool. Now, I want to get back to the blunders that traders make, or the mistakes that traders make. But I first want to mention something that Chris Tate says. If they don't actually have the understanding that they take up trading to change, all they simply have done is traded one job for another job. Do you remember reading that?
Yeah, I do. I thought that was interesting. Because I was like, it's a little self-reflection when I read it.
Exactly. It's self-reflection, and it really comes down to, why are you trading? Once again. And yeah, you can turn this into just a job, and that's what it is. Or you can turn it into an opportunity to really grow as a human being. And as you grow as a human being, you grow your wealth and you grow everything else that comes with it. And what you focus on, as I said before, this book is telling you that what you focus on is what's going to either help you succeed or help you fail. And if we go back to those blunders, what was the first one that you mentioned?
Oh, Lordy, hold on. 1 page, 2 page. Failing to take a loss at the right time.
Failing to take a loss at the right time.
I've done it.
What do you think the reason for that is?
More times than I can count. Ego, which is likely, the subconscious thing of needing to be right.
Yeah, it's either ego or it's fear. It's one of the two. It's either a fear of losing money, or it's an inability to accept that your position is going in the wrong direction. Now, I don't like to say that I'm ever wrong. And I actually say this to my mentor students regularly, that when you're trading, if you're trading with a plan and you're going through all the steps, you're actually never wrong, because there are no answers in the market. There's no guarantees in the market. It's all about probabilities. So if you have a trading plan and you identify where the trade is successful, where the trade is a failure, and you have a plan for each condition, then whatever happens and you execute that plan, you're right. You've created a plan for both scenarios. Regardless of what happens with your P&L, you have created a scenario that you can follow, and you're right no matter what. You're right to exit because you analyze that if it gets below this level, you want to be out, and you've analyzed that, or you've held it, and therefore you're correct because you know what you were looking for it to be working. And if you go through that stage, exactly. So if you go through that stage of mental process, then you can eliminate that ego of being right or being wrong. And but if you're not doing that, if you're just throwing things out there and you're not putting in the plan and you're fighting with that, most likely you are struggling with gambling instead of actually planning for your trades, right?
Right.
So what was the next one? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
You mean of the losing?
Yeah.
Failing to act on signals.
Failing to act on signals. And again, same thing, right? That's a fear or an ego thing. Both of these can come down to fear and ego. What's the next one?
Closing profits too soon or too late.
Again, fear, right?
Yep. Listening to too many opinions, not trusting yourself.
Yep, not trusting yourself.
And trading with insufficient capital.
Okay, now, trading with insufficient capital. I'm going to add that it's not necessarily trading with insufficient capital, because I think that you can trade with a small account. I think you can trade with a medium-sized account. And I think you can trade with a large account. But if you are over leveraged on the position, so if your position is too big, that's where it comes into play. So I think that you can have, like I said, a small account, but if you're playing with a really large amount of money, that's going to play into that. So it needs to be small enough and it needs to be representative enough in proportion to the account size that you have. And really, I see a lot of traders that struggle when it comes to having they're just over leveraged for the position and what they can handle. So even if they have big money, they have a lot of money to trade, but they're playing with way too big of a position, they have that anxiety, they have that fear, and it creates all of these other problems. And regardless of how many losses they can take before they wipe out their account, that's still present. So I agree, but I think it's in the wrong direction. That's my opinion, right?
Yep. You know what's interesting in this in this next chapter, it's talking about the stress. So like when you're in a trade, are you stressed, or is your job stressful, or is your house stressful? Or are you having a stressful moment in your life? And then how that affects your ability to what category, type of trader are you falling into? Because you can revert, revert into old habits, right? Where, you know, are you listening to too many opinions? Like all these things we just listed and talked about, like stress, I feel, because I'm glad that they talk about it, like how can we work on stresses? Because I think when we're really stressed, we can't process quickly and we revert back into old patterns.
Absolutely. Now, you and I mean, we've been doing this for a little bit and we've gone through several books now. We've implemented a lot of the strategies that we've been learning along the way. And both of us have a miracle morning routine that we do. Now, one of the things that you and I have both taken out of this book is implementing the pendulum. And one of the things that we are now doing, and whether or not somebody thinks this is foo-foo or not, until you try it, you'll never know. But one of the things that you and I are implementing is in our miracle morning, the first thing that we do before we start trading is we check with our pendulum and we ask the question, is our mindset in the right place to be trading right now? And if our pendulum responds yes, then we know that we're set. We're psychologically grounded. We're emotionally and energy stable, and we're ready to move on with the day. And if the pendulum says no, then the next question you can ask is what do I, or is there something I need to, do I need to take time? You can start asking specific questions of what you might need to do.
Yes, now, no answers.
Regardless of whether you think the pendulum works or the pendulum doesn't work, here's the thing. By you asking that very question, by you taking the time to say, hey, am I mentally in a position? Is my mindset in the right place? That very question is a right question that's already going to get you thinking and putting your focus in the right place that says, okay, wait a minute. You know what? You can start thinking and you become more self-aware. So even if you don't use the pendulum, like I said, if you don't believe in it or you don't think that it works, asking that same question and just doing a check-in with yourself in the morning before you actually get going can be the very thing that proves that you are okay to trade and, remove yourself from that problem. And take it a next step further. And anytime you experience a loss, or something happens, there's an inconvenience or something that you weren't planning on, some kind of a disruption, take that check again, move inward and just check, okay, am I settled? Am I good? Take a deep breath before you continue doing whatever it is that you're going to do, right?
Yep. I agree. Just so people know, he does often explain something and then he puts it into like a real life story. And this was totally a side note, and I know this caught your attention where he brought up the turtle traders in this story of this guy, Gary. So I didn't think that book was going to be as good as it was, and I got quite a bit out of it. But my favorite part of this was the success rate of 35%.
Exactly.
And they still like were millionaires, multimillionaires. But anyways, when you're comparing yourself and stressing yourself out.
But can you imagine how your mindset has to be so on point to have a 34 or 35% win rate, which means you have a 65% losing rate, which means 65% of the time you're cutting your losses, you're having to face your fears, you're losing money, your P&L looks red. There's all sorts of things that you have to cope with on a regular basis.
It's not your money. Yeah. It's somebody else's money too.
Which adds another layer of stress altogether.
Yeah.
I know what it feels like to get, a loss when I have a 60, 70, or an 80% win streak. I can't even imagine how I would feel having a 35% win streak. You have to have extremely strong mental fortitude and very disciplined in following your rules in order to be able to. You have to be
a computer. You have to trade like a computer. And ironically, I know that I have said this before. I think I just said it in the last episode. It's like, but I'm not there yet. And I want to be there so bad.
I completely agree. I
might be boring. I might not be the fun person on the mic anymore.
Oh, you will be.
Don't change my personality.
Only you can do that. Yeah, no.
Do that.
The other thing that I really wanted to touch on, Chris brings up this thing of true motivation versus pop psychology sort of motivation. You remember that? It was during the interview part of the book. It was under the stress test.
I liked that part of the book.
But he was talking about true motivation and pop psychology sort of motivation. And you see it a lot. It's kind of that idea of, walking by somebody, say, how are you? But you really don't care about the answer. It's just kind of a thing that you do. And the pop psychology sort of motivation is that motivation that's really superficial. It's not deep. It's not grounded in who you are. It might be the fascination of being a trader, for instance, is why you trade, because it looks like it's got a lot of adrenaline. It looks like you make a lot of money, and it looks like you have all this free time to party and whatever it might be, right? Where, Chris has taken it to the next level where he's not on a pursuit of money. Money is what helps him pursue his goal. So it's a tool that he uses to really fulfill his purpose in life. And that's that true motivation that he's talking about, that real drive. It's not chasing money. It's pursuing something, the philanthropic aspect of his life, and having trading as the mechanism that he utilizes to fund whatever those dreams are, whatever the passions are for him. And given the time flexibility that trading has, the insurmountable amount of resources that it provides for you if you do it right, there's just numerous things that you can benefit from with the trading or with the stock market, that it makes for a great companion for a lot of purpose-driven motivations, right? And I thought that was really cool.
It's funny. Yeah, it's funny that you, I'm glad that we're hitting on this little conversation he had where somebody interviewed him and you're seeing these answers, because I probably wrote more in this part of the book than anything, like circles and stars and stuff. And I just think this is interesting because he's like, he was asked, did his approach and type of trading change over time? And he's like everyone, which isn't true. He started with a fundamental approach. So I think today, I don't know how old this book is, but today, I don't think everybody is really as much as a fundamental approach to trading. I would even say it's probably 50-50, to be honest with you. Just going to tell you that. But then he shifted into more technical, and he's like, now I'm just mechanical. And I can appreciate that, because then it does release you to really just keep more focused on your why, because you're following the plan mechanically, which is like an algo.
Exactly.
My dream. I want to be that.
It's boring, right? Trading should be boring.
Yep. Not an adrenaline rush.
So 2014 was when the second edition was written.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, I have thoroughly enjoyed this book. It is definitely one that is staying on my shelf and going to be with me wherever I go. Won't be getting rid of this one. And I am looking so forward to interviewing both Louise Bedford and Chris Tate.
What?
So I'm hoping, I'm going to reach out to them and see if they'll join us. I'm pretty sure they will, but I'm looking forward to it. I would love to get their take on these books or on this book, because I think that they have provided a resource to the trading community that is of an unmentionable amount of value. So it's one of those ones that you need to throw in your arsenal and read for sure. And as mentioned at the beginning of the book, this is applicable to anybody, not just trading, even though they're using trading as an example for a lot of things. It's a good book. Yep.
I agree. You can totally use this for all aspects.
Absolutely.
And you're right. It's going to be a reread. And especially if I know we're going to be chatting about it with the author, I'm like, gosh, I'm going to have to read it again.
All right, everyone. So our next book, what do you want to say about that?
Oh, Lordy. Okay, so here's what I think we're going to do. Because we're going to read War and Peace. I mean, it looks like War and Peace. It is not War and Peace. It is called Candlestick Charting Explained by Gregory Morris. But it's very big.
It's larger than the Bible.
So I think we're going to, also tackle two books at once.
Mm-hmm.
What's the other one called? And this is an interesting challenge for us, because these books are both large, but one of them is going to be an Audible.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just going to be different than all this technical analysis, I think. So if this Candlestick Charting Explained book is just so technically driven, then I think what we'll do is we'll mix in
Capital Without Borders, Wealth Managers, and The 1% by Brooke Harrington. That's going to be the next book.
Yep. So Brooke Harrington is this lady who was doing a thesis, and it has to do with money managers and stuff. So two things I really, again, have no clue where these two books are going.
Nope.
But why are we doing two books at once?
Well, the one is just extremely long. It's going to take way too long for us to get through, so we want to break it up a little bit, take our time reading it, practicing it, but still work on some of the other things. I think we're pushing through some of these too fast, so it'll be nice to break it up into two books and do a little bit at a time.
What can people expect about the episodes? Because the episodes will be broken up in books, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to overlap the books into one episode.
No, we won't. Well, just know that those two books are coming, so you might want to read ahead. In advance. You have the Candlestick book in a PDF. That's correct. Yeah.
And I purchased it. I found a used one for, I don't know, $20, I think, online. And then the other book we're going to do as an Audible, which technically we haven't really done yet.
We have not done an Audible yet, but this one will be an exciting one to do. I'm looking forward to it. I think we'll be publishing it first. So next episodes will be on that, the Audible book that we're doing. And then
you think?
Yeah,
okay.
I think so. I'm pretty sure we're gonna knock that one out of the park. So join us.
You're the boss lady.
Join us. And once again, feel free to check out our website and send us a message at theelevatedtrader.com. And we look forward to hearing from you. Cheers.
Don't forget about Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, The Elevated Trader Podcast.
And if you find value in what we're doing, please share this. Write a comment, because that helps get us out to more people if you think that we are adding value. All right?
Thank you for joining us today. For more information about the show, as well as our list of current reads, check us out at www.theelevatedtrader.com.
Remember to subscribe and share if you found value in today's episode. See you next week.